Alright, welcome back for the part 2 of this Three Sisters planting learning experience that we've got going on. You can see behind me there's a lot of corn coming up now, but there's a couple of mistakes that I made that I want to share with you just so you understand kind of where things are coming from. The first mistake I think I made here was when I planted the corn, I only put a few corns ringing the circles of, around the tops of the mounds. And to me, what that kind of started to look like was I just wasn't going to have a lot of corn, and I still had seeds left over in the packet. So what I then went in later did was lay out corn in kind of more symmetrical geometrical patterns around the edges of the planting area just to increase the amount of corn that would come around. So the reason that turned out to be a bit of a mistake is now I have corn coming up at different times in different places, and it just kind of leads to a little more work as I'm going to have to go through and add the bean seeds continuously over time, which throws off and staggers the growing times and growing rates of the different plants. That could lead to potential pollination issues down the road. I don't know, but I'm going to err on the side of having more corn than not, and that's how that happened. The next mistake I found that I made was when I made my bean selection, because I'd already put a few of them in, I noticed that I had chosen the wrong bean. In the first video, what you saw was me sharing with you the beans that I made, which were Blue Lake 74s, but they were bush beans. You have to have pole beans. So as I was starting to see, I noticed that error as I was going through and documenting all of my plants and seeds and in times and everything else, and they were starting to sprout. And so what I ended up doing is going through and pulling out all of those beans and the sprouts, just because I want to have the same beans running through here, and I want them to be pole beans to increase the amount of yield I can get and to show that and display that partnership. So what I did do is now I have the Blue Lake Stringless FM1K pole beans. Again, my seed selection is not based on any significant expertise at this point. It's based on what was available to me and how easy was it to go for, and I'm giving it a shot. So now that I have some that are within that 6 inches tall range, what I'm going to do is come through and place bean seeds down at the base of the stalks. So let's go down to the stalks and check out that method that I'm going for. All right, so I've got my beans here, I've got the corn, and this is a method that I'm gonna replicate through this entire patch. Now one of the things, and this is where I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I'm going to place my beans on the north-facing side of the corn, or south-facing side of the corn, just to increase their sunlight exposure. I don't know if that's right or wrong, we'll kind of find out, but I'll take my bean down to the base of the corn, and I'm just gonna basically take it and push it down until I'm about the depth of my fingernail into the soil. That will give it good soil coverage, give it the opportunity to soak up water and sprout up. Now the cool thing about beans, especially if you have any memory from your childhood years, is if they're just sitting soaked in a soaked paper towel with water, they're going to start sprouting. And so even if they just sort of sat on the surface and got wet enough, they're going to grow just fine. And one of the techniques that a lot of people will use to get their seeds started so they'll sprout faster in the soil is they'll actually soak them for a few hours ahead of time just to ensure that they get a good head start. That's not what I'm doing here, and you don't have to do that at home, but that's just one technique that would be helpful. I water this patch pretty regularly, so I do feel that they'll get enough water over the next couple of weeks to keep going. So I showed you kind of how I did it on the north side. I pushed it down, made sure there was good coverage all the way around the bean, and now I'll continue through the rest of the corn that is ready to be planted next to. And I made sure that when I planted them, I was maybe somewhere between 1 and 2 knuckles away from the plant, from the corn stalk. Again, I don't know if that's the right thing or the wrong thing. I figure since the beans are a nitrogen fixer and they don't necessarily share or need the exact same nutrients, that it may not make that big of a difference. I'll find out in the future if that was a mistake, and I'll let you know how that goes. So we'll catch a quick time lapse of putting the rest of these in and check in with you in a sec. All right, so I got those ones in, and as I have more of the corn sprouting up here and now, I'll come through once it's about the right size. Remember, I'm looking for corn shoots that are about 6 inches tall, and so once they're about that high, I'll put the beans down in and keep going. That does kind of, like I said before, strain the ease of this particular planting and throw off some possible bloom and harvest times. They're a couple weeks apart, progressively speaking, so we'll see how it goes and make sure that you check in. So if you're loving the videos and you're loving the content, make sure to check out the Patreon, like, subscribe, share all that business, and remember, whatever you do for this land, you do for everybody. Godspeed.